How did chess become global, and did you know that Iranians were the inventors of chess?
The earliest precursor of modern chess is a game called chaturanga, which flourished in India by the 6th century. It is the earliest known game to have two essential features found in all later chess variations, different pieces having different powers, which was not the case with checkers and Go, and victory depending on the fate of one piece, the king of modern chess. A common theory is that India's development of the board, and chess, was likely due to India's mathematical enlightenment involving the creation of the number 0. Other game pieces, speculatively called chess pieces, uncovered in archaeological findings are considered as coming from other, distantly related board games, which may have had boards of 100 squares or more. The game was developed extensively in Europe. By the late 15th century, it had survived a series of prohibitions and Christian church sanctions to almost take the shape of the modern game. Modern history saw reliable reference works, competitive chess tournaments, and exciting new variants. These factors added to the game's popularity, further bolstered by reliable timing mechanisms, first introduced in 1861, effective rules, and charismatic players. Chess spread throughout the world and many variants of the game soon began taking shape. Buddhist pilgrims, Silk Road traders, and others carried it to the Far East, where it was transformed and assimilated into a game often played on the intersection of the lines of the board rather than within the squares. Chaturanga reached Europe through Persia, the Byzantine Empire, and the expanding Arabian Empire. Muslims carried chess to North Africa, Sicily, and Iberia by the 10th century. The game reached Western Europe and Russia by at least 3 routes, the earliest being in the 9th century. By the year 1000 it had spread throughout Europe. Introduced into the Iberian Peninsula by the Moors in the 10th century, it was described in a famous 13th century Spanish manuscript covering shatranj, backgammon, and dice named the Libro de los Jugos, which is the earliest European treatise on chess as well as being the oldest document on European tables games. Chess was introduced to Persia from India and became a part of the princely or courtly education of Persian nobility. Around 600s in Sassanid Persia, the name for the game became chaturanga, which subsequently evolved to shatranj after the conquest of Persia by the Rashidun Caliphate, due to the lack of native ch and ag sounds in the Arabic language. The rules were developed further during this time. Players started calling shah, Persian for king, when attacking the opponent's king, and shahmat, Persian for the king is helpless, see checkmate, when the king was attacked and could not escape from the attack. These exclamations persisted in chess as it traveled to other lands. Precursors to chess originated in India. There, its early form in the 7th century was known as chaturanga, which translates to 4 divisions, of the military, infantry, cavalry, elephantry, and charity. These forms are represented by the pieces that would evolve into the modern pawn, knight, bishop, and rook, respectively. In 1997, an IBM supercomputer beat Garry Kasparov, the then world chess champion, in the famous Deep Blue vs. Garry Kasparov match, ushering the game into an era of computer domination. Since then, computer analysis, which originated in the 1970s with the first programmed chess games on the market, has contributed to much of the development of chess theory and has become an important part of the preparation in professional human chess. Later developments in the 21st century made the use of computer analysis far surpassing the ability of any human player accessible to the public. Online chess, which first appeared in the mid-1990s, also became popular in the 21st century. Romantic chess was the predominant playing style from the late 18th century to the 1880s. Chess games of this period emphasized quick, tactical maneuvers rather than long-term strategic planning. The Romantic era of play was followed by the scientific, Hypermodern, and New Dynamism eras. In the second half of the 19th century, modern chess tournament play began, and the first official World Chess Championship was held in 1886. The 20th century saw great leaps forward in chess theory and the establishment of the World Chess Federation. The history of chess can be traced back nearly 1,500 years to its earliest known predecessor, called chaturanga, In India, its prehistory is the subject of speculation. From India, it spread to Persia. Following the Arab invasion and conquest of Persia, chess was taken up by the Muslim world and subsequently spread to Europe via Spain, Al-Andalus, and Italy, Emirate of Sicily. The game evolved roughly into its current form by about 1500s. An alternative origin theory contends that chess arose from Xiangqi or a predecessor thereof, existing in China since the 3rd century BC. David H. Lee, a translator of ancient Chinese texts, hypothesizes that General Han Xin drew on the earlier game of Light Ubo to develop an early form of Chinese chess in the winter of 204 to 203 BC. The German chess historian Peter Bonaskak, however, points out that Lee's main hypothesis is based on virtually nothing. He notes that the Xuangu Ilu, authored by the Tang dynasty minister Naiu Sengru, 779 to 847, remains the first real source on the Chinese chess variant Xiangqi as a strategy board game played in China. Chess is believed to have been derived from the Indian chaturanga. Chaturanga was transformed into the game Xiangqi, where the pieces are placed at the intersection of the lines of the board rather than within the squares. The object of the Chinese variation is similar to chaturanga, that is to render helpless the opponent's king, known as general on one side and governor on the other. Chinese chess also borrows elements from the game of Go, which was played in China since at least the 6th century BC. Owing to the influence of Go, Chinese chess is played on the intersections of the lines on the board, rather than in the squares. The game of Xiangqi is also unique in that the middle rank represents a river, and is not divided into squares. Chinese chess pieces are usually flat and resemble those used in checkers, with pieces differentiated by writing their names on the flat surface. The appearance of the chess pieces had altered greatly since the times of chaturanga, with ornate pieces and chess pieces depicting animals giving way to abstract shapes. This is because of a Muslim ban on the game's lifelike pieces, as they were said to have been too like idols. The Islamic sets of later centuries followed a pattern that assigned names and abstract shapes to the chess pieces, as Islam forbids the depiction of animals and human beings in art. These pieces were usually made of simple clay and carved stone. The philosopher and theologian Ghazali mentioned chess in The Alchemy of Happiness, c. 1100. He uses it as a specific example of a habit that may cloud a person's good disposition. Indeed, a person who has become habituated to gaming with pigeons, playing chess, or gambling, so that it becomes second nature to him, will give all the comforts of the world and all that he has for those pursuits, and cannot keep away from them. The Shahnameh goes on to offer an apocryphal account of the origins of the game of chess in the story of Taland and Gav, two half-brothers who vie for the throne of Hind, India. They meet in battle and Taland dies on his elephant without a wound. Believing that Gav had killed Taland, their mother is distraught. Gav tells his mother that Taland did not die at the hands of him or his men, but she does not understand how this could be. So the sages of the court invent the game of chess, detailing the pieces and how they move, to show the mother of the princes how the battle unfolded and how Taland died of fatigue when surrounded by his enemies. The poem uses the Persian term shamat, checkmate, to describe the fate of Taland. One day an ambassador from the king of Hind arrived at the Persian court of Chosroes, and after an oriental exchange of courtesies, the ambassador produced rich presents from his sovereign, and amongst them was an elaborate board with curiously carved pieces of ebony and ivory. He then issued a challenge: "O great king, fetch your wise men and let them solve the mysteries of this game. If they succeed, my master the king of Hind will pay tribute as an overlord, but if they fail it will be proof that the Persians are of lower intellect and we shall demand tribute from Iran." The courtiers were shown the board, and after a day and a night in deep thought, one of them, Bozargmer, solved the mystery and was richly rewarded by his delighted sovereign. A manuscript explaining the rules of the game called Matikni Chaturang, the Book of Chess, in Middle Persian or Pahlavi still exists. In the 11th century Shahnameh, Ferdowsi describes a Raja visiting from India who reenacts the past battles on the chessboard. A translation in English, based on the manuscripts in the British Museum, is given below. The Karnamaki Ardshir-I Papikan, a Pahlavi epical treatise about the founder of the Sassanid Persian Empire, mentions the game of chaturanga as one of the accomplishments of the legendary hero, Ardashir-I, the founder of the empire. The oldest recorded game in chess history is a 10th century game played between a historian from Baghdad and a pupil. In some variants, a win was by checkmate, by stalemate, or by bare king, taking all of an opponent's pieces except the king. In some parts of India, the pieces in the places of the rook, knight, and bishop were renamed by words meaning, in this order, boat, horse, and elephant, or elephant, horse, and camel, but keeping the same moves. Some people formerly played chess using a die to decide which piece to move. There was an unproven theory that chess started as this dice chess and that the gambling and dice aspects of the game were removed because of Hindu religious objections. Scholars in areas to which the game subsequently spread, for example, the Arab Abu al-Hasan Ali al-Masudi, detailed the Indian use of chess as a tool for military strategy, mathematics, gambling, and even its vague association with astronomy. Masudi notes that ivory in India was chiefly used for the production of chess and backgammon pieces, and asserts that the game was introduced to Persia from India, along with the book Khalil-Adamna, during the reign of Emperor Nushirvan. The Cox-Forbes theory, proposed in the late 18th century by Hiram Cox, and later developed by Duncan Forbes, asserted that the four-handed game chaturanga was the original form of chaturanga. The theory is no longer considered tenable. In Sanskrit, the word chaturanga literally means having four limbs, or parts, and in epic poetry often means army. The four parts are elephants, chariots, horsemen, foot soldiers. The name came from a battle formation mentioned in the Indian epic Mahabharata. The game chaturanga was a battle simulation game that rendered Indian military strategy of the time. Chess was designed for an ashtapada, Sanskrit for having 8 feet. That is an 8 times 8 squared board, which may have been used earlier for a backgammon-type race game, perhaps related to a dice-driven race game still played in South India where the track starts at the middle of a side and spirals into the center. Ashtapada, the uncheckered 8 times 8 board served as the main board for playing chaturanga. Other Indian boards included the 10 times 10 daspada and the 9 times 9 saturangam. Traditional Indian chessboards often have X markings on some or all of squares A1, A4, A5, A8, D1, D4, D5, D8, E1, E4, E5, E8, H1, H4, H5, H8. These may have been safe squares where capturing was not allowed in a dice-driven backgammon-type race game played on the ashtapada before chess was invented.